Hi everyone. Sorry if I'm looking a little rough. I'm just coming off of about 6 weeks of having massive hay fever, and then on top of it catching some plague that my son brought into the house and infected us all with. So bear with me if I seem a little bit out of it. I think I slept about 14 hours yesterday, and I'd really love to go back to bed right now, but I just last week something interesting happened in a subreddit called Purple Pill Debates, and it's essentially a space that's been set aside for people who describe themselves as red pill and people who describe themselves as blue pill to have debates on various issues. And this particular thread was brought to my attention by a couple of username mentions. Some people recommended, go and watch her videos, and Reddit automatically, if your username is mentioned, they send you a little notification. So I went and I had a look. And the title of the post was, "So What Should Women Do?" Essentially, this woman was asking, okay, so men are really frustrated with women and men hate women. What do women need to do to change this? And what I responded ended up getting stickied at the top of the red pill for almost a week. And it was essentially two comments that I left that I think I should probably maybe put some place where they're going to actually stay and get some viewing, because apparently they were good comments. So here goes. I said, "I don't think there's a universe that could exist where men in general hate women. So maybe the first thing would be to stop accusing men of hating women, and to call out the women in positions of power who accuse men of hating women, and to call out women like Quinn Norton, who claim that men are raised to hate women, or Chloe Agnol of Feministing, who claim that our entire society hates women. Honestly, the Nazis hated the Jews, the Hutus hated the Tutsis, the KKK hated blacks. And yet this male-dominated society, where men hold the majority of the positions of power, somehow hates women, despite not a single lynching of a woman for wronging a man, despite no mass and the white ribbon campaign and he for she and a male feminist president, despite Boko Haram's sparing of girls while burning boys in their dormitories, despite the unbelievable and unbelievably unspoken of gender gap in executions and criminal sentencing in Islamic countries, despite males being the primary receptacles of violence by both males and females from infancy to old age, globally, despite not a single genocide in history that didn't begin with the systematic extermination of almost exclusively men and boys. And you think men hate women? Well, if men hate women, how do you think men feel about men? On any given day, any given male is more likely to assault a male, undermine a male, ignore a male in need, murder a male, celebrate the suffering of a male wrongdoer, hit his male child, make a decision to mutilate his male child, arrest a male, convict a male, and sentence a male to incarceration or death, then he is a female. And yet women, yes, women, have allowed a narrative to become entrenched in all our systems and institutions that males favor other males at the expense of females, that somehow there's a team men that has been oppressing, subjugating, and subordinating women since the dawn of human history, that men have waged a war on women since we descended from the trees and first tottered on two legs on the African savanna. Men have bled for their women, fought to protect their women, died for their women, and admonished each other for millennia to love their virtuous women as Christ loves the church, to treat their honorable women as queens and as jewels, to present to them the heads of the men who displease them, and to duel to the death to defend their honor. The literary canon, written primarily by men, has always lauded a masculinity that protects women, the villains identified by their willingness to harm women, and the heroes identified by their willingness to avenge those harms. And you think men hate women. Men have never hated women. Men will never hate women. What you see as hate is fear and frustration. Fear of what you have the power to do to any given man on any given day just by virtue of being female. Frustration that no matter how far men bend to your whims, it's never enough to prove to you that they don't hate you and have never hated you. For God's sake, have you ever gone on a conservative website and seen what the people there write about Islam and misogyny? These men couldn't care less that for every one woman executed for adultery in Saudi Arabia, 100 or 200 or 500 men are executed for less serious crimes. They couldn't care less that 80% of women in Saudi Arabia don't want the driving ban lifted because it would mean giving up the privilege of being chauffeured around by male family members. Those conservatives say, oh my God, look at those horrible Islamists and how they treat their women. They objectify and sexually exploit them. And what do you think the Islamists are saying about Americans? Oh my God, look at how those horrible Americans treat their women. They objectify and sexually degrade them. And somehow, a minority of women, feminists, have convinced all of society that men hate women. If you can convince society that it hates women in the face of all evidence to the contrary, then you have a power that is unfathomable to the average man. A power that is unfathomable to the most powerful man. You have the power to convince society that men hate you just because they don't love you 10 or 100 or 1,000 times as much as they love their fellow man. And you have the power to convince society to enact legislation and policy based on that completely stupefying false belief. And those powerful men who supposedly hate you and are in charge of everything, they'll do it. They'll lie and they'll cheat and they'll throw less privileged men under the bus just to prove to you that they aren't misogynists. Putting your foot down and saying what you're doing is abuse isn't hate. Drawing a boundary and saying this far, no further is not hate. Saying I choose to have nothing to do with women unless absolutely necessary is not hate. It's self-preservation. Fairly soon after, somebody asked, in the same thread, asked me what my opinion of the subreddit TheRedPill was. And I responded, I officially recognize the red pill's right to exist. Frankly, I don't mind the red pill, either the philosophy or the subreddit. I think it has value to offer men who are looking for individualistic solutions to the current social problems regarding gender. I like Jack Donovan. I like Roosh V. I like Barbarossa and Stardust. I like all kinds of men and their perspectives, even when I don't agree with everything they have to say. I like the idea of criticizing women, men too, and holding them accountable. You'll notice in my earlier comment, I said, yes, women. This debacle of a gender war is not just on the minority of women who are feminists. It's on most women who've not just tolerated it, but viewed the social and legal changes the way looters view a race riot. Sure, they might not care about the issues and might not be marching at the barricades, but they'll happily take advantage of the measures feminists have managed to enact, or to ignore the way these measures unjustly harm men until the moment they feel personally victimized through the men they care about. The average woman will be 100% in favor of child support right up until her own kids have to go without figure skating lessons so her husband can make child support payments to his ex for kids he's never allowed to see. She'll collectively cheer the advance of women in education right up until her daughters can't find men worth marrying. She'll laud efforts to make rapists more easily convicted until the unforeseen day her own son is falsely accused. And she'll nod along when all men throughout history are unjustly maligned as oppressors and rapists because she's never, for whatever reason, realized that among the maligned is her beloved grandfather who taught her how to make daisy chains, encouraged her to climb that tree when she was little, started a college fund for her, and sat unsleeping next to her grandmother's deathbed for 72 hours with tears pouring down his face. For some reason, she just never made the connection that when feminists were talking about evil patriarchal rape machines, they were also talking about the men she loves and the men who sacrificed so that she could have a better life than they did. If the red pill is a response to anything, it's a response to the apathetic, pragmatic, mercenary nature of most women, who don't even notice the harm done to men until they're forced to personally suffer a portion of it. And then this question in the original post. So typical. Okay, so women have been kicking you guys in the testicles for 50 years, and you're finally starting to object to it in ways that affect me personally. So what should we women do? Well, first thing would be to stop kicking men in the testicles and try to convince other women to stop. Second thing would be to stop interpreting, ow, my testicles, fucking hell, what the fuck, as misogyny and aggression. Third would be to stop buying the trite rhetoric of the Cenk Uyghurs, the Theodore Roosevelts, and the William Blackstones. You know, that rhetoric which derides the men of past generations as behaving abominably toward their women, as if it's fact, rather than what it really is, a way to distinguish themselves as superior to those bad men over there, or those bad men back then. And fourth would be to put just a little bit of effort into understanding the male experience rather than judging it. The red pill seems to be the one area that demands these things of women in general. Of course, I got quite a bit of feedback in that sticky post recreating my comments, and most of it was really positive. The negative stuff was perfectly understandable, and I don't hold it against anybody. I really think that as a woman in this culture, expecting every man to trust you right away is just not gonna fly, and I can totally get that. And I do think that men have every reason to resent the fact that the things that I say have so much more power coming from me than they do from a man who's saying maybe the exact same thing. Um, but that's just a function of the way things are. It just is. And I decided quite a while ago that I was going to continue on this journey, largely because of that, largely because I can fulfill a need, and when you have people who are depending on you like that, you just feel like you have to continue. Um, I also got some negative feedback from people who are, I would guess, MRAs, sort of a do you really agree with the red pill? Are you really okay with the red pill? You know, please tell me that you're not. And I really, I understand that too. It's part of understanding men, to understand why that happens, why these schisms develop, and why you'll have um, MRAs attacking PUAs, and PUAs attacking MRAs, and red pillars attacking everyone, and people attacking traditionalists, and traditionalists attacking non-traditionalists, and the whole bit. It really is essentially part of the male psyche, and as much as women are useful this uh, in this endeavor, extremely useful in this endeavor. They also change the dynamic a little bit, and they make it more difficult for men to get along with each other. I feel a responsibility toward all men out there, right? To understand them. And that even includes male feminists. I don't necessarily respect them, but I understand their choices, and I don't think it's their choices boil down to something as trite as they're just trying to get laid. I absolutely don't believe that. I think it's more complicated than that. But there are people that will always, always, always try to um, convince me not to like those other guys over there, right? Or to not advocate for those other guys over there. And I'm just not going to do that. I can put myself in the head of a Jack Donovan and understand where he's coming from, or in the head of a Rush Vorik and understand where he's coming from, or of a Roisi and understand where he's coming from, or a Paul Elam, or a Dean Esme, or even a John the Other, despite what differences we have at this point. I can completely understand why they make the choices that they make and why they feel the way they do. And I'm not here to judge any man, right? I'm not. Um, I'm here to try and figure out how things got to the point where they've gotten, what we can maybe do about it, how we can wake people up. Uh, and other than that, I'm not here to condemn PUAs for being pussy beggars. I'm not here to condemn MGTOW for being losers or failures. I'm not here to condemn MRAs for being whiny babies who want the government to solve all their problems. I'm not here to do any of that. And so, as much as I really appreciated that post being, those comments of mine being sticky at the top of the red pill and all of the positive feedback that I got for them, um, it really did highlight the difficulties inherent in getting men to cooperate and get along with each other in their own interest. PUAs may think that MRAs are going about things the wrong way, but honestly, if anybody's going to keep you out of jail on a false rape accusation, because you uh, push through the token resistance with the wrong woman, it's going to be an MRA. It's not going to be another PUA, right? So, honestly, I would love to see a little bit more solidarity and a little bit less infighting, um, and a little bit more understanding of each other. I just, if I can maintain friendships with men who have widely divergent viewpoints, I just don't understand how the men themselves can't get along with each other. And so I would hope that maybe there can be a point of commonality that you guys can all reach and figure out a way to get along, even if it's not to cooperate. At least just not try and throw each other under the bus all the time. So I guess that's what I wanted to say. Other than that, I guess I gotta go back to the final bit of demolition work in my bathroom before I start putting it back together. And I'll see you guys later.